Welcome into the Commanders Report. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Today we got major Week 1 injury news surrounding the New York Giants, so we need to cover at the top of today's show. Then we'll get into the latest surrounding Kendrick Bourne, and if you drafted Jacory Krosky-Merritt in your fantasy league, you might have been a little bit discouraged to see him listed as the RB4 earlier in the week, but there's some good signs from practice that he could be having a little bit of a higher role here heading into the 2025 season than that depth chart presents. But before we get into the content today, guys, make sure you click that thumbs up icon to celebrate the NFL being back. We're going to be putting out this video shortly before the Eagles and Cowboys face off in the season opener there in Philly. So if you are super pumped for this 2025 NFL season, just like we are here on the Commanders Report, click that thumbs up icon to help out today's show and celebrate the NFL being back. And speaking of Week 1 here, it's looking like Giants left tackle Andrew Thomas, one of the best, if not maybe even the best player on their entire team, will be out on Sunday versus the Washington Commanders. Now, it's not confirmed. I want to make that abundantly clear, but Giants beat writer Pat Leonard said today, Brian Daboll says left tackle Andrew Thomas is not practicing today despite, quote-unquote, looking good yesterday. So that's not a good sign for Andrew Thomas, who, of course, is coming back from that Liz Frank injury that he had in his foot last year. He just started running last week. So that's not a great sign for somebody that's hoping to play Week 1. He hasn't played a game since Week 5 last year when he did go down with that Liz Frank injury. He hasn't been participating in practices throughout camp. He just started practicing this week, and he was practicing in a limited fashion yesterday, and then today didn't practice at all. So we'll see what happens with Andrew Thomas with this foot injury. It certainly doesn't seem to be in a great spot as it stands right now, just a couple of days away from kickoff here on Sunday. But I would say if Andrew Thomas can't go here in Week 1, guys, it's looking really bad for the G-men and the Big Blue there. I just think, you got to protect Russell Wilson in this game. If you're the Giants, you got to give him time to throw the football. Russ is somebody that likes to hold the ball for a while, and if you don't have your best offensive lineman out there, that's going to create a lot of opportunities for this Commanders pass rush. Von Miller, Dorrance Armstrong, Javon Kinlaw, Frankie Louvu's going to be blitzing quite a bit. It's just going to be too many opportunities for this Commanders defensive line and pass rush to get to Russell Wilson and get to him quickly without Andrew Thomas on the field. So I'm hoping that Thomas can go. I'm hoping that he's healthy. I don't want anybody to be injured or anything like that, but if he can't go on Sunday, I would say that makes the Commanders' job of coming out of Northwest Stadium with a 1-0 record just a little bit easier. Now, if you guys want to see my in-depth preview for Commanders versus Giants here in Week 1, we put that out yesterday, so if you guys want to check that out, it's up on the channel right now. I'll put that video in the top right of your screen right now if you guys want to check that out. But now shifting our focus here to Kendrick Bourne, who visited the Washington Commanders this week. He is going to be waiting to make his decision until next week. He wants to see how things play out here in Week 1. According to Ian Rapoport, he says free agent wide receiver Kendrick Bourne has elected to sit this week out and weigh his options over the weekend and see which team is the best fit. Source said he recently visited the Commanders and the 49ers. So obviously it's going to be coming down to either one of those two teams. The 49ers reportedly have a standing offer with Kendrick Bourne. I don't know whether the Commanders extended a formal offer to Kendrick Bourne or not. I'm guessing that they did, because he wouldn't be contemplating his options if the Commanders didn't want to bring him in at this point. But personally, guys, I'm not in any particular rush. I think the Commanders' chances of winning versus the G-men on Sunday are pretty darn good. And, if he signs in Week 2 and he's ready to go for a Week 2 matchup here, I'm not going to be too worried about that, all right? If he needs to take the weekend to decide whether or not he wants to play for the Commanders or the 49ers, it doesn't really affect this team all that much. It does sound like Noah Brown's going to be able to play and be this team's wide receiver 3 heading into the weekend. Of course, you have Terry McLaurin back and under contract on a new massive contract extension, and then you have Deebo Samuel, of course, who's been with us all through camp. So it does sound like it's going to be either the 49ers or the Commanders. Of course, he's got those connections to the Niners and the Commanders, with Adam Peters being a former Niners assistant GM. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there, and if he joins the Commanders, great. If not, there's other options out there, or, I'm actually pretty good with what the Commanders Commanders have in the receiver room as it stands right now. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. What is the percent chance that the Commanders get Kendrick Bourne when he finally makes his decision? Put it on a scale of 0 to 100 for me. 0 meaning no chance. He's definitely going to the Niners, to 100 meaning he's definitely a Washington Commander. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. So in just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at PrizePicks. And while I'm talking about PrizePicks today, let me know the percent chance that Kendrick Bourne is a Commander. And with that, let's have word from our sponsor today at PrizePicks. And you and I make decisions every single day, but most of those decisions don't get you paid. But on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid when you download their free app today. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on the PrizePicks app, where it's good to be right. This week, it's week 1, and you better believe I'll be getting my PrizePicks lineups in for tonight's season opener versus between the Eagles and the Cowboys, all the way through Monday Night Football. PrizePicks is simple to play. You just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if you get your picks right, you could cash in. PrizePicks also puts their users first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. PrizePicks also offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. And a new feature from PrizePicks that I absolutely love is injury reboots. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half with an injury and doesn't return, PrizePicks won't count that as a loss. So we take a look here at my projection for tonight's season opener in the National Football League between the Eagles and Cowboys. I'm taking the more on passing yards, the free play on Dak Prescott. I'm taking the more on receiving yards for George Pickens, the less on passing yards for Jalen Hurts, and the more on rushing yards for Saquon Barkley. So download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup on the PrizePicks app today. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, so now let's talk a little bit here about Bill Krosky-Merritt, who is listed as RB4 on the Commanders' quote-unquote unofficial depth chart that was released by the team earlier this week. And a lot of fantasy owners that picked Bill Krosky-Merritt and were very, very high on him heading into the season were absolutely depressed, of course. But in practice this week, he's been getting number 2 reps in the rotation. Austin Eckler's been the number 1 back in the rotation in practice this week, and then Bill Krosky-Merritt was following right after. So that would indicate that is the true depth chart right now. I said it on the show earlier this week, guys. That unofficial depth chart put out by the team is not confirmed by Coach Dan Quinn. It's not confirmed by the coaching staff. It's pretty much the Commanders' social media team putting it together, and they don't have really any input from the coaches themselves. So sometimes they make mistakes, and it certainly seems like based on the order, not to mention the fact that they held him out of the preseason finale, tells me that Bill Krosky-Merritt does have a very prominent role in this offense, or at least that's the plan heading into the season. Now, I do think heading into the year, we're going to see Austin Eckler get the majority of snaps when it comes to the running back position, but I do think Bill and Chris and Jeremy are all going to get into the mix here, and I do think it's going to be closer to a true committee to start this season, and then they're going to ride the hot hand as the season goes on. You know, if Austin continues to play well, he will continue to get more of the reps. If Bill continues to play well, I think he gets more and more of the reps as the season goes on. So it's not completely hopeless yet if you are a Jacory Croskey-Merritt fantasy owner like myself, but expect to see Bill more on Sunday than maybe you think. You know, if you see him there at RB4, you probably think he's not going to play a single down. He's going to be a true backup. He's not going to get an opportunity here in week 1. I do think you're going to see him a little bit more than some people are expecting. Maybe if you have another running back that you trust, maybe play him over Bill Krosky-Merritt this week. But I do think that if you drafted Bill in your fantasy leagues like I did, you do have hope heading into the year here. I do think that, once we get down the stretch and into fantasy playoff types of situations there, Bill Krosky-Merritt has the potential to maybe even win you your league based on where you ended up drafting him in your fantasy league this year. All right, that'll be it for today's edition of the Commanders Report by Chat Sports. I'm going to go watch some football right now, guys. Eagles, Cowboys. It's great to have NFL football back on our television screens tonight. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Make sure you join us tomorrow for more Commanders coverage right here on the Commanders Report.